Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to present to you tonight former U.S. President Ulysses S. Grant. Would you share with our audience an interesting, amusing, or maybe a especially memorable experience from your childhood?
Yes. When I was about 10 years old, I loved to be with horses, and I loved to play with them. I lived in Ohio in a place called Point Pleasant. There, I saw a special horse that I wanted very badly. It was only a colt at that time, but I knew that it would one day be a white stallion. And its mane glinted in the sunlight and fluttered in the wind. And I knew that I had to have it as my own. I told Mr. Ralston, the owner of the colt, that I would pay him $20 at the lowest for that colt. But if he didn't take my first offer, I would give him $22.50. But if he still did not accept that, I would give him $25. He accepted my first offer, and I received the colt happily. I took it gingerly and cared for it. I treated it very well, and not long after, I was already leading people across the country. I was made fun of for my lack of good trading skills, but I did not care what others thought. This is what helped me persevere.
Who's been the greatest influence on your life, and why?
Abraham Lincoln, I would say, has been the greatest influence on my life because he has always been there for me. And he stood up for me in front of people who spoke out against me. He even visited me during a war and did not fear death, apparently. He was always there for me up until the point that he was killed by a gunshot inflicted by John Wilkes Booth. He did not deserve to die the way he did, and I regret not being there to be able to save him, though I could not do anything and to be there in time to save him anyways, because I was in the middle of a war.
What was the most important thing that you accomplished as president?
Well, the most important thing that I accomplished as president was that I defeated the Ku Klux Klan and severely weakened it. The Ku Klux Klan was an organization of terrorists who were trying to return African Americans to the dreadful acts of slavery that were going on during this time. This was obviously an evil organization, and it had to be put to an end immediately. So during my second term as President of the United States, I sent out the Justice Department to round up the Ku Klux Klan members. They rounded up about 1,000 Ku Klux Klan members, and this Klan did not regain its power until about the year of 1920, when by that time it was already a more expanded organization full of anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant, and anti-black members.
Can you tell our audience how long you were president, in what year were you elected, and how many terms did you serve?
I was President of the United States of America for about 8 years. I served 2 terms as President, and my first term started in 1869 and ended in 1872. Then my second term started at the end of the year of 1872 and ended in 1877. So at that time, I was no longer called Mr. President or President Grant. So I left the White House in 1877, thankfully, because I knew that my life would be more eased and relaxed, because I was no longer depended on by almost all of America for help and support. I felt free, and it seemed to me that I had almost no responsibilities at all compared to when I was president. Of course, I still had work, but I was not as weakened as I once was by the burden of caring for all of America. I became ill, though, and I had throat cancer soon enough after being president.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor and privilege to present tonight's guest, former President Ulysses S. Grant.
Go, keep going.
A man whose work and commitment to this nation will be remembered for generations to come. We hope this interview with our former president will allow us to learn more about his life and his contributions to our great nation. Will you please give a warm welcome to former President Mr. Ulysses S. Grant.
After being president. By almost all of America. Of course I still had work. I was not as weak. Yeah. Of course I still had work, but I was not as weakened as I once was by the burden of caring for all of America. I became ill not long after and had throat cancer soon enough after being president. I forgot one part. I took the cold happily. I took it gingerly and cared for it until it was an adult. But I took very good care of it and treated it very well. And when it was an adult, I was already leading people across the country with it, from one country to another. I knew that now my life would be more eased and relaxed because I was no longer depended on by almost all of America for help and support.
Okay, we'll have to do that one.
Of course I still had work, but I was not as weakened as I once was by the burden of caring for all of America.
Okay.
Will you tell our audience how long you were president, in what year were you elected, and how many terms did you serve?
Anyway, I kind of screwed up my face.
오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 너는 선호해 낮에는 너만큼
Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like the air was more than human and the heat was was more than hungry, and the cars were square and spitting diesel fumes. The bulls were running wild because they're big and mean and sacred, and the children were playing cricket with no shoes. The next morning we woke up, man, with the 7-hour drive. Well, there we were stuck in Port Blair, where boats break and children stare.